Sheets Haver. Hope everybody out there had a wonderful Christmas. It was really nice where I was. It was just a lot of hectic basketball stuff going on, and unfortunately, like some news late that even like the DFS being out, I had a bunch of lineups, sort of threw me for a loop. But this was good. Had some shots late in the big basketball ones. Actually, was third in the football on the Millionaire Maker, but I was tied with 50 people until like late in the fourth of the last game. So had some shots, didn't quite get there. Unfortunately, not my greatest day, but ready to get back after today. Rody, let's start with you and ask, how are you doing? How was your Christmas? And what do you think about today's slate?
Hey, Christmas was pretty good. Just been chilling. A lot of driving for me. My family's far away, so we do a little bit of driving on Christmas, but it's been pretty good. Slate looks a little interesting. A lot of low-owned options out there. The chalk's very heavy today, I think, but I mean it's valid. I mean they're cheap. They're in good spots. A lot of COVID news, a lot of news. So it's a little hectic slate, but I think you can get different. I think you can take something down with the right pieces today.
Yep. Sheets, how do you do? You said you had a good day on FanDuel pre-show, and tell us a little bit about that, and then what are your thoughts on this slate?
Yeah, a really nice day at FanDuel yesterday. I got like second and third and a bunch of different things, from showdowns to whatever. Got that Wesley got in there for me for Arizona, which was nice. And yeah, a pretty good day yesterday. Nothing, six figures or anything like that, but we'll take it for sure. And I'm ready to, only a couple of more, main slates to get after. So let's see if we can't make it work.
Let's do it. Well, congrats on the good day yesterday. I wish I could have been as in as good a spot as you were, but let's get into it today. So let's talk about just generally what games we're attacking, what plays maybe we think are good chalk and bad chalk. And Rody, I'm going to start with you on this. What games are you looking at? What quarterbacks are you stacking with your lineups? And then what are some of the value that maybe you like and that you don't like?
Well, it's a Chargers week this week. I mean, a couple of guys are out, but Keenan Allen's in a great spot. Herbert looks pretty good. He's a little chalky. You got Justin Jackson on the same team at 4-2 on DK, super cheap. Really like that. Jared Cook, Oh, I've been heavy Chargers all year. Really like that team. They go for it on fourth down. They're trying to score touchdowns. They're trying to make the playoffs. Get in there and win games. So give them credit. Another couple games I do like besides the Chargers. Jalen Hurts is in a good spot. I think you can go there in the stack. Maybe no run back on that. I also like a little Kirk Cousins in that Rams game. Maybe a off the board stack. Joe Burrow cheap off the board stack. With Chase, I've been playing Chase heavy. He busted me, cost me big last week. We don't want to talk about that, but it's 0.8 points on FanDuel. I ain't gonna get it done for me. But maybe we go back to him this week. We did talk about Mark Andrews last week in a game, but I don't think you need to run it back. We don't know the quarterback situation there. But yeah, I do like the KC game as well a little bit. I think Pitt's defense isn't very good. Maybe Deontay Johnson or Najee at lower ownership. You can pair in that game. I do like Tyreek Hill with no Kelsey. I feel like Mahomes got to feed him the ball a little bit today, so he could have a big game, a ceiling type game that we've seen out of him. So,
yep. Sheets, how about you? What are you targeting games wise, and then some value that maybe you're finding yourself heavy on?
Yeah, first thing I want to say is that with respect to the Cincinnati thing, I really don't think that's going to be particularly unique. That's literally, I'm just gonna let you. That's literally all I've heard all week was how everybody's pivoting to Cincinnati. That's just my it's just my nose to the ears to the grindstone. You know what I mean? Of like just what I'm just hearing everywhere. I am okay. So first of all, I want to talk about this for a minute. So I posted this in the Discord the other day. It's like the running back situation. It looks really, really easy, right? You have like 4 or 5 guys that just kind of stand out over everybody else. And even like some of the wide receivers kind of like really, really stand out. So like if someone asked me like what plays I can make, what are good plays, I can certainly give good plays. But again, what we're trying to accomplish here is to talk about tournaments. And so it's almost like we're on purpose. We have to like try to find a way to pivot off of what we know are good plays. Like for me, as far as like, I don't know if you wanted to do running backs or you actually asked me about what teams I'm playing. So I am, as far as teams I'm attacking, I mean, I am playing the Rams. I think that's, again, that's going to be pretty chalky, but that's the team that I'm going to have the most exposure to with respect to team stacks or anything like that. I think Cup is just, I mean, I think he's like almost impossible to fade at this point. And the fact that you can get him in so easily, I think that's difficult for me. I know that usually wide receivers are not, the guys you're supposed to lock in like that, but just they just scheme so much for him nowadays.
Yep.
It's just so difficult to not get him, So I am doing a lot of Rams stuff. Minnesota side scares me a little bit from the passing side. I have to update stuff for the Chargers because with Mike Williams out, obviously you're gonna have to put in probably. I mean, we'll talk about these wide receivers as they come up. So I didn't really get to the Chargers at first glance, but I'm probably going to. So for me, Rams are definitely the number one team for me. Then there's Minnesota, Chargers, KC, some Tampa and things like that. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Well, that makes a lot of sense to me. I hear you what you're saying. I think people are. I feel like it might be one of those situations with this Cincinnati game because that was naturally what I wanted to do also. Where I don't think, even if people are on it, I don't think it's going to be quite as heavy. And what they're not going to do is they're going to play Chase and Burrow or something, or Chase Higgins, Burrow. But I don't think people are playing Tyler Boyd. So I think that's a way you could get different if you are worried about the ownership on that stack. But overall, I actually feel like that I don't think it's going to be quite. I don't have it projected at quite as high maybe as you do right now.
So I don't have it projected that way at all. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I just think it's going to come in that way.
Yeah, no, you could be right. You absolutely could be right. There are some other guys, and I'm going to throw out some names and see where you guys stand on them because I think they're kind of important parts of the slate. Where do you stand on a guy like Antonio Brown, Josh Palmer, and Justin Jackson? Rhodey, I'll start with you. I know you're heavy on the Chargers. Obviously, I like the Chargers as well. But are you including?
Yeah, Jackson's hard to get off to on DK because his price. I do like him. I do like Palmer. I got those guys mixed in. I kind of like mixing them in. They're harder to get off on FanDuel at 5, 4, 5, 5. Those three running backs: Madison, Ronald Jones, and Jackson. They just let you get like Kupp and Keenan Allen and like Tyreek Hill and those guys that you want to get in your lineup. So, but I mean, everyone's probably doing that. So you might have to play a different player like a Boyd, like you talked about. I don't mind T. Higgins in that same game for touchdown upside. I think he gets a lot of touchdown looks in the red zone. So you can, on FanDuel, he's a good play. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just try to get different with some of those same pieces. They're going to be chalky though, those running backs.
Keith, how about you with those guys? Where do you stand in relation to maybe the field on guys like Brown, Jackson, and Palmer?
I'll probably be under on Brown. I'm probably going to be. Well, this is what I did. Okay, so I took those four running backs. Well, the five running backs: Jackson, Robinson, Madison, Montgomery, and Ronald Jones. And I just basically looked at them. They all look pretty similar to me. And I just kind of took who I thought was going to be most overowned relative to my own prediction of what was going to happen. I just X'd them out. Like, so I for example, I hit the, as our friend would say, I hit the X button on Ronald Jones on DraftKings. I just did it. That's the way it's going to be. And I actually hit the X button on Jackson on FanDuel. I have Madison locked in on FanDuel. I don't think you can get away from that.
Yeah.
So that's just what I did. I just took chances like that, and that's what I did. When some place seemed just so obvious, but there were other options. I just X'd one, and that's really not mathematically the right thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, you're probably supposed to go under, whatever. I just decided to do that. So on drafting, for example, like take Ronald Jones as an example, I'm just gonna have zero. The combination of the fact that I don't really like him just for my own reasons, and the fact that you didn't like him at the beginning of the week, whatever. I just don't want it.
Yeah, there's lots of. I mean, the thing is, I don't even know where Jones is going to end up because, I mean, first of all, this is a terrible running matchup for running backs. You're still going to need points to win. He's going to end up high owned, but I think that Justin Jackson's a far superior play than Ronald Jones. A little bit worried about maybe losing some of the. I don't know if Justin Jackson's going to be 100% of like the work or anything like that. But you've got other guys down there. I mean, David Montgomery. I do like Madison, but I feel like it's a little funny to me that everyone wants to play Madison and people aren't playing Joe Mixon in a spot where I think Mixon could go nuts.
No, Eric Haber is going to be playing Joe Mixon.
So will Bobby Firestone, and so probably will Rhodey, based on just my guesses that he's going to have.
I have some Mixon.
Yeah. I also really like Cordarrelle Patterson, and this seems like a good week to go back to him. at lower ownership than I initially would have thought. Miles Sanders, same kind of a thing. These are some interesting pivots off of some of that ultra chalk in the Jones Jackson situation. I know that we like the Chargers, but I know Palmer is going to be, and again with high variance receivers, I don't think you necessarily need to go play that a guy who's going to be that high owned when you've got Berrios, who you could pivot off of to. You've got a guy who Sheets brought up a while back before other people were on him, and that's Nico Collins in that same game. If you play a Jackson, Nico Collins, just get a little bit of exposure that way to the cheap exposure, but going for a little bit. I mean, Nico Collins, there's no reason why Palmer has to outscore Nico Collins here, and he's going to be literally 5 times the ownership, maybe even higher. Same with Berrios. So I think those are 2 interesting pivots. I think Tyler Johnson, Pringle, Robinson, all those guys I have a little bit of interest in, but I think mostly it's going to be Nico Collins as my main pivot at wide receiver. What are we doing at tight end today, guys? And then I'll get to questions in a minute, everybody. What's up to everybody? Hope you all had a great Christmas and everything. I'll get to the questions in a minute. But what are you guys doing at tight end? Because I feel like there's a lot of different routes, different types of builds you can get to that have different things. And it doesn't need to just be with stacks, but it could be. Rody, we'll start with you and then jump over to Sheets.
Jump to Sheets first. Sorry.
Okay, tight end Sheets. Who are you looking at mostly for tight end?
Pretty spread out. I have right now I have 25% Jared Cook. I have 20% Goddard. I have 10% Pitts. I mean, I have, I have 40 lineups on DraftKings. I have 14 different tight ends.
Okay. How about you, Rody?
Yeah, I mean, I do like how Sheets has it spread out a little bit. I don't mind. I like Pitts today. I like Goddard. Those are my favorite. Cook is probably in a good spot. I got a lot of him. I do like Higbee in that game. Like everyone's going the other receivers Kupp will be chalky. I don't mind Higbee in the same game. Looking good.
Mm-hmm.
Foster Moreau will get some ownership at tight end there too. He's going to be in a good spot. We got Cole Kmet. I mean, he hasn't really done anything all year, but he keeps getting ownership. I don't even think how many touchdowns. I don't even think he scores 1 touchdown this year. Did he?
Yeah, I mean, probably better play on DraftKings than FanDuel.
Yeah, for DraftKings. Yeah, FanDuel is pretty easy to me. I think I'm just gonna lock in Goddard, Cook, Pitts. You got Rob Gronk. I think you can get some of him in that game.
Yep.
Conklin and a Kirk Cousins stack. I like.
Oh, interesting.
Mark Andrews is so expensive, but man. He's been killing it, but I mean the quarterback situation there is awful. So
am I crazy to consider Noah Gray?
I mean that's an option. I have him in best ball. That's not in this week, but I wish he would have been found on one of the teams I got alive still.
Yeah.
What team is he on?
KC. Kelsey's out.
Oh, right.
I
okay.
like Noah Gray. I'll put him in a couple lineups.
Yeah, I have him in a couple Mahomes stacks, but nothing.
I got 20 entries in the fan championship on FanDuel. He's only 4-1. I just realized that. That's pretty cheap.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy over there, and no reason why you couldn't.
Oh no, that's DK. My bad. He's 5. No,
he's 25 on DK.
4-1. Yeah, 4-1. Oh, he is 4-1 on FanDuel.
4-1 on FanDuel. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. I
was
right.
Everybody wants to play Nick Foles today, and we're getting a ton of questions about this, guys. I have 0 Nick Foles. Anybody else playing Nick Foles today?
I don't have any Nick Foles. I don't even know. Was he an option?
I mean, he's not for me, but I mean, he's 4K, but I'd rather play Josh Johnson if I'm going to play a 4K quarterback. Sheets, how about you? Any interest in Nick Foles?
No.
And I'm going to ask you about Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I much prefer Matt Ryan to Nick Foles.
I have Matt Ryan as well. I do have him.
How about Josh Johnson? Let's talk about this because I do think you get some rushing upside. He is 4K. It's a game that we like to target. We want to target. He's going to be owned somewhat. But he can put up a number. I mean, he did his last start against Indy. He put up 25 fantasy points. There's a little bit of rushing upside. He threw it a bunch. I actually really like Mark Andrews. I didn't mention that. I mean, I am way overweight on Andrews. I don't care about who's quarterback for that team. They're just going to keep feeding him the ball. He's their safety net. Also, Duvernay, another receiver, just gives me another excuse to try to find why they would just funnel in on Mark Andrews. So because of that, I'm forcing a little bit of Josh Johnson in. Any Josh Johnson for either of you guys, starting with Sheets?
I don't play guys like that.
Who's like that? Like, because Nick Huntley was like that, and he won all the money last.
I don't play guys like that either. So you know what I mean. I just don't. I mean, like I'm not saying that it's not. You know, people can't win with it. I don't like playing. I don't like playing bad quarterbacks. You know,
They're not. Okay, so I would just say with the system that they run there, these aren't bad. I think that's like a whole different thing than Nick Foles, because Nick Foles, you need to throw for a bunch. Like these guys you run for one touchdown and you throw for one more and throw for 250 yards, and all of a sudden you're like, even your 18 fantasy points are good enough at 4K if you use the other value, if the other money goes. So I have a little bit of a different take on that. I actually do like those kind of plays quite a bit if they have the rushing upside, especially. Any interest for you, Brody?
I tend to not do that either. It did pass me in the monster last week. I was very disappointed after that last touchdown by Huntley. But he did have a really big game last week. That system does allow you to run the ball, like you said, and throw. I do like Mark Andrews. He is pricey, but 7K, I got him in a couple lineups over on DK. I like his upside there. So I mean, you can go there. I like that. You can get a lot of pieces in playing that guy. I'm gonna tell you that.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. You know, and then just to echo a little bit more of what I was saying about the thing is, it's really just the opportunity advantage, especially if they're down in this game. If you think Cincinnati is, you could play Mixon on the other side. I just really like the way it stacks out if you do want to pay down, but you really don't necessarily need to go down at quarterback. And he's going to have enough ownership to where you could argue for just completely avoiding it. So I'm fine with avoiding it, but I would actually rather play those guys by a long shot to Matt Ryan personally.
Really?
Yeah, because Matt Ryan, I do everything I can to try not to play guys who throw the ball a ton. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, even if they throw the ball a ton, I want guys who are going to be out there running a little bit or have a little bit of rushing touchdown upside, especially on like a site like FanDuel, although we're talking about DK with the pricing. But I really think that there is a value. And also he's $1,400 cheaper than.
I don't know. Let's talk about that for a second. So you prefer, like in GPPs, to have the quarterback with the running upside? I mean, because I actually look at the other. I mean, I prefer to have them with the receivers. I think like in cash, whatever, just quarterback in cash. I play a running quarterback, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, do those win? I got the
Jalen Hurts wins a slate every week, basically, or every other week. You know what I mean? These running quarterbacks, I feel like, are the ones that actually can put up a number. It's really hard for a passing quarterback to put up a big number, especially on FanDuel. FanDuel, I really try to force in the Jalen Hurts types and the Huntley was an example last week, although he did a lot of it throwing too. But Jalen Hurts is probably the best example of the guy we have that has that rushing upside that I like to look to, and I like to single stack him. That's why I don't. And Josh Allen being, I guess, the best example. But Josh Allen, you could play from both angles. He could throw for 400 yards, and he could run for 150. So you don't know what's going to happen with him.
Well, let me ask you another question. So you asked me about this guy. I want to hear your take, because I'm going to rebuild with the the new Charger stuff, whatever it is. What are you doing with like Antonio Brown and Josh Palmer? You know, like what do you like? I mean, are you playing those guys? I mean, they got to be really popular, right?
Yeah, they're going to be popular. I think there's other ways to get different. Like one basic like Madison for Mixon in those lineups. Mixon instead of Madison in those lineups is a way you can get a little bit different. But I am playing about 30 some odd % of Palmer right now. I probably will lower that by the time I'm done. And I'm at 36%, I believe. And I'm very high on Antonio Brown on DraftKings. It's hard for me to get away from.
Yeah.
An interesting guy you can pivot to is a little cheaper, but Emmanuel Sanders with no Davis and Beasley.
Oh wow, I forgot about him.
I think that's kind of interesting, and looks like he's on track to play. So, Rody, what do you think about what about you with those guys? I'm like 60% of Antonio Brown, and I actually like Antonio Brown on FanDuel, where he's more expensive because he'll be much lower on over there.
Yeah, I'm getting to him on both sides a little bit. Antonio Brown, about over the field probably, or around 50% or whatever. I'm not playing a lot of lineups, so like maybe like 8 to 10 lineups on FanDuel, maybe with him out of 20 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't mind that play. Palmer, I got a little bit of him too. I'm big on Keenan. I got a lot of Keenan today, probably a lot more.
Yeah. And Triple J mentioned in here that he likes Jimmy Graham over Kmet. I think that playing Jimmy Graham on the full slate would be just absolutely unnecessary and no reason to do it. As a backup tight end who gets like one target a game. But I mean, Kmet, one thing about Kmet, you guys are, the reason he gets ownership, he's getting targeted like crazy. He's one of the highest targeted tight ends, and he's 3,300. So I do think like he wouldn't be viable for me on a site like FanDuel because of the touchdown thing if you want to go that route. But I do think on DraftKings he's very viable with that workload he's getting. But I another way you can get different with the Palmer thing. Like I'm in my Herbert stacks, and I want to ask you this, Rody, because I know you're going to be playing the Herbert stuff. In your Herbert stacks, one, are you playing him with Justin Jackson, and two, who are you running back from Houston? Because for me on Houston, I'm running back Nico Collins. And if I play Nico Collins with Palmer and Allen, and then I can spend up for Kupp and Madison and do whatever I want to basically elsewhere. But I kind of like that idea of the run back. So you're not playing Collins instead of Palmer in that case. I'm playing Collins in addition to. So what are you doing in your Herbert builds?
Currently have no run backs on Houston.
No run backs.
I'm very light on run backs today. Very light.
Houston probably going to go ahead.
Trying to jam all the best plays in I can.
No, it makes sense. I just think that, and I'm just speaking of, game theory, and it could be Chris Conley just as easily. It could be Nico Collins. I mean, it doesn't need to be.
I don't mind the Nico play. He's actually projecting somewhat decent here today in that game. I do like Justin Jackson with Herbert because he's so cheap. Like he's just so cheap, right? Like, I mean, he could get a passing touchdown. Eckler got a lot of that work. He could get, from Herbert, and he could get a rushing touchdown. Herbert could still throw for 4 touchdowns. So
I have a question because Bobby knows this team a little bit, and well, not as well as Rody does, but Bobby knows this a little bit. Are we like 100% sure that like Justin Jackson's going to get all this work and it's not going to be like a full split with Kelly?
I don't think that we're 100% sure at all, but I also don't know if it'd be enough where I could play Kelly or anything. It's only an argument for fading Jackson, in my opinion. The thing is, the matchup is still too premium. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it was a worse matchup, I could say, okay, yeah, we don't need to play the guy. It's a little harder for me to get away from just because of how good the matchup is, and the game script. They're almost 2 touchdown favorites here. By the way, Texans. This might be a good bet on the Texans to cover at home.
I mean, no, I'm going to get 12.5 now. I mean, they're feisty, but I don't know, man. They have like no ammo. I mean,
it's true. They really don't have much, but yeah, Collins, Conley, and Dorsett as your receiving core with, hey, your boy Pharaoh Brown and Brevin Jordan.
P. Brown.
They would be fun to play on. This would be a fun little showdown slate, the Texans, because you can mix and match a whole bunch of different crap that could get there.
Yeah,
it'd be kind of fun. Guys, start filling in your questions. We'll be here for another 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
What about Brady stacks? I wanted to ask you guys about that because I have some interest in Brady to Brown and Gronk. I know they're going to be fairly owned, but I kind of like that stack a little bit. Where do you stand with that, Rody? And then take it over, Sheets.
Man, Brady stack. I mean, I got a lot of Ronald, a little bit of Ronald Jones, and a lot of Brown, but like, I mean, I don't mind like what Sheets did with Ronald Brown, throwing him out the water. So then you can definitely stack Brady. I think like do a Tyler Johnson and Antonio Brown stack, or Gronk and Antonio Brown, which has won money earlier this season. Like Gronk and Brown were going off, right? Like Brown was getting tons of catches, Gronk was getting tons of touchdowns. That stack is definitely viable. I haven't finished my FanDuel build, but I could end up on a Brady stack. I'm kind of throwing a couple quarterbacks here. I'm kind of spread out today. Trying to just mix and match some stacks. So I do like it.
Yeah, so I wanted to throw out a couple of number things that I came across with Brady. So basically, anytime he scores less than 20 fantasy points, these are his numbers on the next game after he doesn't score 20 fantasy points. Basically, just meaning that they struggled or whatever. He didn't put up much of a game. He had 11 against New England, and then he put up 40 the next week against Miami. He had 18 against Philadelphia, 25 against Chicago, or 24.5 against Chicago the next week, 15 against Washington, 23 the next game against the Giants, 12 against Indy, and then he put up 32 the next week against Atlanta. He put up 6 last week. I'm not saying that this is all narrative based, but there is something that seems to happen. Add to that the fact that Fournette is out. I mean, I know you have the receivers out as well, but like add to the fact that you have Fournette out, and you get Antonio Brown back, though. I mean, I just think there's an argument for a Brady double stack that I could see Brady just completely going nuts, especially against a team that's really hard to run the ball against Carolina. That's sort of my thoughts on that one.
Well, quite honestly, I mean, if in fact, Brady has a good comeback game today, I don't even think it's necessarily because he had you know what I mean? Like it's coming off of a bad game. I mean, like Saints are no joke, dude. I mean, you know what I mean? Like no. Saints defense are good, and they've been very strong against, like we've talked about, like Tampa, like forever, So I don't think that was particularly You know what I mean? Look, the extent of how bad it was pretty bad, but I certainly could have seen that being a bad game. So this is just like as far as I'm concerned, just a very, very nice upgrade for him. I mean, even though Carolina's not like like I said, Carolina's not the worst defensive team either. But the Saints, I mean, they're legit.
No, I agree. But I also think that when he struggles and he has the opportunity, he tends to go completely. He tends to really take advantage of it. He tends to throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns, which is basically what you kind of stuff you need to win a tournament or pay his price for a quarterback. So the question here is Adam's asking about Swift. Swift is out, so just don't play Swift. So there's your answer on that question. James Robinson against the Jets, 100%. I love James, not 100% of him. I have 44% of James Robinson right now. Where do you guys stand on James Robinson? Start with you, Sheets.
Yeah, I got a ton of them.
How about you, Rody?
Yeah, I got a bunch of James Robinson. I'm very high on him on DK as well. I think he's a nice little get up to more over like the cheaper running backs, and then if you want to do like a Montgomery, I like Montgomery in that same price range too. I didn't mention him. A couple guys I didn't mention was James Robinson and Montgomery, kind of like those guys. So
I don't mind if you want to throw in a Miles Sanders too. They are giving him more of the work. It's just very frustrating when you get to the 1 yard line every time you get Jalen Hurts. I would say vulture, but I mean Jalen. It's also why we like Jalen Hurts in general. I mean Miles Sanders. Does Brady? I think this is right. I think Miles Sanders has no rushing touchdowns this season. Is that? No, that can't be right. That can't be right.
Maybe.
Wow, he has 0 on the season. Wow. Tom Brady has 2 rushing touchdowns in the season. That's crazy. None for Miles Sanders. Just kind of crazy, but I do like the matchup, and it's a good spot for him. All he has to do is eventually break one. Would you play Emmanuel Sanders over Hollywood Brown in PPR? I would probably lean Sanders a little bit over Brown, given the fact that it's a backup quarterback. Sheets, how about you? Sanders or Brown?
Sanders or Brown?
Yeah.
Which Brown?
Marquise.
Oh, I'm not. I don't think I'm doing any of the Marquise Brown. And which Sanders? You mean Manuel Sanders or Miles Sanders?
Manuel Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't quite get to those guys, but I guess it makes sense. I do think that Josh Allen and all of Buffalo is going to be on their own. I said this earlier in the week.
Yeah.
I mean, look, New England's got a defense, but it's still freaking Josh Allen, and you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And by the way, the defense, like, just because you have a defense, it almost means you're going to have to probably lean on him even more. Like, yeah, I think Josh. I think that's a good answer, is to try and take some Josh Allen shots here. It scares me a little bit against New England and Belichick, but that's why everybody's avoiding it. The QQ about Jamal Williams on FanDuel now that Swift is out. I mean, last time this happened, Jamal Williams didn't even get the majority of the workload the last 2 times this happened. Yeah. So don't just assume that Jamal Williams is going to be. People like using Jamal Williams as a secondary back. He's never really taken on the full role of a main running back. So I don't think he's viable on FanDuel because of the other value. That's my look. How about you, Rody?
Yeah, Jamal Williams is kind of not getting all the work. I don't like the play. I don't have any of him.
I almost wish I almost want to. It's Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like, it's somebody we love to tackle with running backs. I just don't have interest in it. Go ahead, Rody, Sheets. Sorry. What do you think about Jamal Williams with no Swift? And I'm guessing the projections might like him a little bit, but I think it might be a little smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, I just think the other running backs are just too strong. I think that I just don't like the Detroit offense with Nick Boyle. I don't know. I just don't think they're gonna do anything. I mean, I really don't.
Yep. I hear you. I mean, I guess at his price on FanDuel, if you want to take a shot, but there's just so many cheap running backs with Madison, Jackson. He would definitely be behind those guys for me. So it would be hard for me to get to him. But I could see throwing him maybe in the utility spot in a couple. If you're going to play 3 running backs, I don't know. I don't think I would do it though. You like Cook, I know, Rody, and this is the greatest example of a guy who literally never ever does anything, and everybody likes to talk about every week. And I've all year said this is a terrible play. I don't get it for main slates. However,
okay,
you don't have Parham in there.
We got something. You
got no Parham in there. Cook's another one. I don't think he has. I think he has 3 touchdowns this year, and I don't think he still hasn't had a double-digit target game. I think Kmet is a significantly better play than Cook. I think Cook makes sense in some stacks and is going to be low owned. but I do think he's a better play than he has been all year because of Parham being out. That's the way I look at it. I do think Parham is a guy they like, and Parham had 3 or 4 touchdowns this year. Those are basically cook vultures in some ways. And yeah, it could be Steven Anderson today, but they do like Parham a lot, and they run plays designed for Parham and near the goal line. So that kind of takes Cook out of it. Now with him gone, maybe Cook gets into it. So sort of talking myself into Cook. I know Rhodey likes him. Sheets, are you playing any Cook?
Yeah, he's one of the 100 tight ends that I'm playing.
Yeah. What about I think this is an interesting question from Kyle, because I think I'm done just completely with Seattle. But it does scare me that I'm going to have 0 Metcalf or Lockett for probably the first time all season that I won't have either of these guys. Rhodey, are you doing anything with these guys?
Should scare you, my guy.
I'm going to play a little Metcalf. By the end of when I end up clicking something, I'm going to have to click one Metcalf, right?
Yeah, I have him with Montgomery, like a running back receiver correlation.
Yeah.
Like I have like chalky guys, and then I kind of have them as kind of my non-chalky guys in the build, or Metcalf in the build, not chalky, but so yeah, I kind of like that pairing. So
how about you, Sheets?
Yeah, this is unfortunately is a common answer. I mean, I have no issue with it. I'm just not getting to it, and that's and we'll go through some of the like I said, some of the hoodoos that I have, whatever. But the guys whose name I can't pronounce, I know everybody loves that. But I'm just not getting that guy.
Yeah, I got you. All right, let's see if there's anything else. Is Burkhead crazy? They have nothing else. No, yes, Burkhead is unnecessary in my opinion. But could Burkhead have a game if you're playing a big tournament? I think he could. I mean, I don't know if I need him necessary at all, but at 4.5, maybe you could double pay down at running back and just get all the receivers. That's not crazy. What do you think? What do you think, Rhodey, on that one?
what was Burkhead's price?
He's 4,500 on DraftKings, and we have the only other running back they have is Royce Freeman, who you could actually make an argument for. But Burkhead could get the passing work in this game. It's possible.
Maybe he's a possible run back. I guess that's possible too.
Yeah, I think at like 1% ownership, I think I would be, if I was playing 150, I would be at 2 or 3%.
Yeah. Not really doing much of that.
All right. Let's see what else we got here. Any other takes, guys, about Rhodey, you mentioned you have a couple Metcalf things. Who else is a little bit of maybe some other low owned plays that you're high on in this slate that maybe we either haven't talked about or you maybe want to emphasize a little bit more that you like?
One guy I haven't talked about, maybe Javonte Williams.
Who's that? Oh, from the Denver?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have one lineup that has a good shot to move on to round 4 and best ball in the Millie on DK, and he's in it. So I'm really hoping for a big.
How many people are left in that thing? Or is that not the way it works?
I don't know how many more rounds are left, but after this week, next week there'll be only 235 people left, and it's all round 4 is all 235 people. So for $1 million for first, 235th is $1,000. So if I move that lineup on, I can get to $1,000 at least.
What was the and what was the buy-in?
That's a $20 one. They just did a standard Millie price. So yeah, however it divides out to like 235 times 12, then you would have, that's how many people are remaining for that in that.
And you've been at $20, you've been running that all year?
No, that's what I did in the summer. Like you drafted those all in the summer. Like that's the same team I got all summer. And I have a lot of healthy players. That's my Charger stack. I got Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin in that one. Like I've had a lot of good players in that one. So Mike Williams and Eckler are out this week though. That's gonna hurt bad, but I do have Keenan Allen and Cook in that same lineup. So I'm hoping for the best. So yeah.
Is there anybody have any love of anything on New England today? Because Damian Harris is going to be completely overlooked.
Yeah, Damian Harris started popping a little bit more too, so he's a good play probably.
I think he's a better play than maybe people think. I don't know. I have a little bit of interest in Harris. Chiefs, what about you? Any interest in anybody from New England? If you were going to play a Buffalo back as a run back?
Yeah, if I do decide to do that, I like who's that running back though that's pretty good? The Stevenson?
Yeah, the problem is that he's going to lose the carries to Harris as the main running back. Oh, Stevenson's out.
Yeah,
okay.
that's what makes it a good play.
Bolden, if we were playing like an afternoon slate or something, I would like if it was a 3-game slate, I would be playing Bolden. Just to maybe he could potentially get the passing game work, but I think Harris is going to get the majority of the running work. Any interest, anybody? No. Okay, I'm into it a little bit, so I'm going to do that.
No, I mean, no, he's all right. He's projecting pretty decent. He's positive projection for price, both sites. I mean, he's a good play.
I will put him in my Josh Allen stack that I just added as we were on the show, because I do. That is one of those like low owned, like, aren't we supposed to take a shot with Josh Allen? Like, they could struggle. The Patriots could try and game. You know what I mean? We saw Josh Allen, who had what did he have, like 3 fantasy points going into the fourth quarter of that game against Tampa Bay, and there were 4 of them or something like that. And then in the fourth quarter, by the time the game's over, he has 42. Like, he just has such a massive ceiling. I think we should be doing some of that. Yeah.
I'm putting Burkhead in one now too, because we talked about it on the show. Burkhead's popping a little bit more, and Damian Harris. They're kind of both lower ownership. You can probably get both of them in.
Yeah, I think Burkhead is, the more I think about it, is maybe an interesting pivot. If you're going to play the Chargers passing game instead of playing Jackson, maybe play Burkhead on the other side. Or you could try to play both and then spend up at all the other stuff you want to. But I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Any love at all for Josh Jacobs? None for me. How about you guys? I get it. I just am not going to do it.
I think he's in a good, all right, spot. I mean, he's getting a lot of the work, right? So, like, he's a good play. I was going to say him in that same game with Javonte, but they both project about the same down in the middle of the pack. So, I mean, they're both good. You can get them,
Okay, first of all, I lied. I do have 5% Burkhead on DraftKings.
Ooh.
And I also lied as well. I also have 5% to Damian Harris from New England. I'll start throwing out some of these guys I have that at least that I'm projecting be less than 10% or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So running backs, Damian Harris, Burkhead. I do have like 5%. Well, it's not even that much. Like Josh Jacobs. I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire a little bit. And then I'll go right back to Michael Carter from the Jets. I mean, he busted, last week is kind of chalky, I suppose. Mm-hmm. So I would go back to that. Let me look through some wide receivers too. There's a guy there. There's no way he's only to be 8% owner. You mentioned him earlier, but Braxton Berrios, I like that. And from the same team, I like Keelan Cole. I'm at 3,300, and also from that same game again, Laquan Treadwell again.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go back to that. And then back to the KC. I'm going to go with your dude, Mr. Rohde. I'm going to go back to Byron Pringle.
I don't mind it.
That's some of that. And then speaking of going back to your guy, I got a couple lineups with the aforementioned Brian Edwards from the Vegas. So
interesting.
I mean, to win $1 million with all the other chalk I have going, you got to have something else, right?
Yeah. No, I hear you. Rohde, how about you for low-owned plays? Because I guess I sort of asked you that already, but I guess I'll throw out some of mine, and then maybe you guys can talk about those, because I do have Adam Thielen is a guy who I'm playing some. I don't think he's going to end up having much ownership today at all, and he's coming back against the Rams. I always prefer secondary receivers to the main receivers against the Rams, even though it's really scary always to not play Justin Jefferson. I think all of the Cincinnati receivers are, while they might have some ownership, they're going to be low-owned, but I don't mind siding with the lowest owned, which would be Tyler Boyd. I have some DJ Moore. I have some Chase Claypool. I have a lot of a very high amount of, what do I have now? 30 some odd percent, 35%. And then I have them on all my FanDuel lineups. Deontay Johnson. I like, this is not low owned, but Najee Harris is a guy who I didn't mention, but I have about 35% of Najee Harris. I really like, I have the Collins thing. I have the Berrios thing that you mentioned. I have who else do I have it running? I have a ton of Joe Mixon. I'm going to be way over the field on him and Cordarrelle Patterson. Yeah. Those are some of the somewhat lowish owned guys. And I do think that mixing in the Burkheads, and then a guy who no one is going to play today, and I think is interesting. And I actually think double tight end. I think 3 running backs is viable. I think receivers are viable. I think everything's viable today. I think including tight end, double tight ending a little bit. I like Dawson Knox a lot. Looking at him, I think that with these other, with the Beasley sort of being the safety valve kind of 10 target, occasionally 10 target kind of a guy, and Davis being gone, I think you're going to see potentially more work for Dawson Knox and Sanders. In fact, in my stack, because I have respect for the corner in New England, I'm actually playing less Diggs and I'm going to not play Diggs and just play Sanders and Dawson Knox, which should be plenty to get off the board.
I tell you, man, the more I think about it, the more I really kind of want to do this Buffalo thing.
Yeah, I think that I think that you're onto something with this. I think that's not a bad idea. Sure, it's a tough matchup, all this stuff. I mean, let's go. I think that it's Josh Allen has the highest ceiling of any quarterback on the slate. There's no question about it, in my opinion, just because the rushing upside too. He isn't running as much, but I do think it's worth taking a shot there for sure. How about CPAT for you? I'm curious, Rody and Sheets. How much CPAT are you playing? Rody, start with you.
I like the Kyle Pitts engage a little bit more. I don't really have enough of CPAT. I don't have a lot of them at all, actually. I'm gonna get to him a little bit more. So just a few lineups for me.
Yeah. Okay. How about you, Sheets? Any?
I have 15%. And I kind of want more, actually.
Yeah, I've got 35 right now, but I think he's a very good pivot. One thing. Okay, look, the Rams have had some struggles at times, and look, they have a good defensive line in general. Madison is a workhorse and all that stuff, but if he's going to really be so much more owned than Patterson, it feels like Patterson's playing the Lions. Like I just think that there's an argument. I have basically the same amount of Patterson and Madison. Patterson and Madison. I have a very similar amount, and then Joe Mixon is the other one right in that same range. So you can get different with any. Mixon is probably the lowest owned of the 3, and I like all of those guys quite a bit.
Yeah.
All right, final takes before we get out of here. Sheets, you mentioned the Buffalo thing. I'm gonna get more of that once we get off the air. Anything else you wanna add as for final thought before we get out of here?
Yeah, me or Sheets. Okay. Yeah.
No, yeah, go after Sheets. Go ahead, Sheets.
Yeah, no, I'm again, Buffalo's kind of the last thing. Again, I have to rerun this stuff again, so I'm probably going to come up with something else. I'll post in the Discord or whatever.
Okay.
It's the same thing I always have. I mean, like, I'm looking at my freaking lineups, and they all look freaking like they can't lose, and they look too chalky, and I'll probably end up like making 12% again. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I want to do.
Hey, it's still a win. You could take a shot with them. Some of the guys you mentioned though are pretty off the board guys, so. You could just mix a couple of those guys in. That's all you need to do. I mean, look at the winner of the $1 million in the basketball last night. Literally just 2 pivots. I wish I would have played the Peyton Pritchard thing because I almost had the exact same lineup, and it just went with a different route instead of Pritchard. After we heard
I'm going to say the same thing about the Millie and the Millie maker for the NFL showdown last night.
What's that?
The 2-gamer Millie.
Yeah.
Shrek from RG won it last night. A lot of those same guys were in projections, and he literally just pivoted off Taylor, went with T.Y. Hilton, Pittman, and Kyle Murray, Ertz. Those guys were all like the chalk plays, and then he won $1 million.
Yeah.
Really?
Hilton, yeah.
That's
wow.
Shrek's a big.
I texted you on that about the T.Y. Hilton too.
Yeah. The T.Y. was. I was like, I liked the call too.
Yeah, because Lazard, Murray, Chubb, those guys were all in the lineup, and everyone was projected. Those are high projected guys. Lazard, Adams, Stack, Pittman was in there, Chubb was in there. Basically, just playing once the Connor news came out, you just threw Edmonds in.
Sounds like you left a lot on the table.
Huh?
Sounds like you must have left a lot of money on the table. It's the only way you could have done that.
Yeah. I mean, just getting off Jonathan Taylor basically and playing. Hilton and Pittman and keeping money. Yeah, he had to leave money probably. Yeah, for sure.
I want to just answer one last quick question before we get out of here. Kendrick Bourne is a run back for the Bills. I think Kendrick Bourne is viable enough, but I don't love it or anything. I think that he's he could always break a couple big plays or throw a touchdown. Who knows? You never know with that guy. The Patriots will run some gimmicky stuff with him, and they love him for that. But all right, guys. Well, we appreciate you being here. Good luck to everybody today. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Hope everybody has a great day, and let's see some screenshots in Discord later, guys.
Good luck,
Let's
everybody.
get it.